If Lionel Messi wins this World Cup, it should be declared illegal for anybody to ever second-guess his GOAT status ever again. Ladies and gentlemen, what we just witnessed is not normal. Undoubtedly the greatest World Cup, and the greatest World Cup final that I've personally witnessed in my lifetime. The pendulum that was that final match was ebbing and flowing in ways that I didn't think were possible. For Argentine and French natives, I can only imagine that the actual heart attacks overwhelmingly outperformed the expected heart attacks. And as for the neutrals,
it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
There is so much to unpack from this tournament that it is probably impossible to even try. But perhaps the majority of that doesn't really matter. The biggest talking points from that belter of a final were twofold. Firstly, as they had done in 1978 and 1986, the Albiceleste came out of this one as the top dogs. R.I.P. Diego Maradona, I know you would have been proud of the boys. And from what we know about the man's lifestyle, he probably also would have been proud that the amount of babies conceived and alcohol consumed in Argentina has likely broken records in its own right. And secondly, we witnessed the dying embers of a debate that's been raging on since the very first round object was ever kicked. Who is the greatest of all time? Guys, I think the debate is finished. Lionel Messi has only got ahead and broken so many records that it's hard to count while playing his socks off and rinsing teams like he has done for so long at 35 years of age. Unreal. But, of course, he did not do this alone. Today, we're going to be reviewing Argentina's journey to the World Cup final, the mentality and ability of the man who was almost guaranteed to dominate world football for years to come, the match itself, as well as a few bits and pieces here and there. In doing so, we might be able to answer the question of the day. How did Argentina win the 2022 World Cup? Yo, what's going on, guys? Hope you're doing well. I'm Tinashe, welcome back to the channel, and oh my goodness, has the last couple of weeks been a wild ride. I want to do a bit of a stats dump and recap on the World Cup as a whole so that we're all on the same page when it comes to how crazy what we just witnessed was. And then we can get into the journey of champions. But before we do that, if we're going to talk about stats, I think it's only fair that we take a moment to thank the sponsor that made this video possible. Football moves fast, guys. New games every week, new players to follow, a new spicy scandal breaking headlines every other day. How on earth are we supposed to keep up? Actually, I know how, and it's thanks to the sponsor of this video, OneFootball. Got a busy day ahead of you and don't have time to be sat in front of the TV enjoying your team play? Download OneFootball and follow the action. Live scores, team updates, lineups. It's got all you need. Need to catch up on the latest news coming out of your team's camp? Download OneFootball and check out what news story is breaking out around the French national team. Need to double check the scoring charts to see who's in pole position for that prestigious golden boot? You don't need to look. It's Erling Haaland. But you get the idea, I'm pretty sure. With sections dedicated to your favorite teams, players, and much more, OneFootball is your go-to news app for all things football related. If all that sounds good to you, why not click the link in the description to download OneFootball for free today. Thanks so much to OneFootball for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. This World Cup was the highest scoring tournament in the history of the competition, 172 goals, topping both the 2014 and 1998 editions, which are tied at 171. Qatar became the first host nation to ever lose their opening match. I mean, no surprises here, really. Morocco became the first African team to make it to the semi-finals. The boys really put in a tactical masterclass here, as well as a crazy performance in the semis before being silenced. Walid Regragui, take a bow, buddy. Surely a strong contender for the manager of the tournament. Since Croatia's World Cup debut in 1998, they have finished in the top three out of the 6 times they've appeared in the competition. They have a population of just under 4 million, guys. No team had lost a World Cup knockout match after scoring first in extra time. Brazil became the first. Seems that they lost their wings. And finally, for the second time in history, a player has scored a hat-trick in the finals of a World Cup. And for the first time, he was on the losing team. And while we're on the subject, we gotta take a moment to talk about Kylian Mbappe. The guy is just a mentality fiend. We can argue all day about his outrageous pay package, his alleged dressing room drama and whatnot, but what we can't argue about is that he's probably worth it, in my eyes. Throughout the tournament, he's shown everyone just how dangerous he is in the transition, in the box, and on the spot. With 8 goals and 2 assists and 7 appearances, the man drew level with Pele in terms of overall World Cup goals, with 12. He dug France out of hole after hole and did it in style. Turtle power activated. Also, I can't lie, it's gonna be awkward when Messi and Mbappe meet at PSG training in a week's time. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and switch the focus to the boys in stripes. There'll be more stats as we go along. Now, seeing as how the rest of this video is primarily focused on the team of the hour, I would typically do a deep dive into the nation's history on the international stage so we could all put this momentous win into perspective. The only issue is that I've already done that. Last year when Argentina won the 2021 Copa America. I recommend watching that if you're interested in Argentina's past. But long story short, starting in 1993, after a Copa America win in the same year, Argentina failed to win competition after competition despite making it to the finals on numerous occasions. 28 years of pain. That all came to an end on the 10th of July 2021. Victory at last. An unbelievable achievement. All the same, continental glory is one thing. Despite that win, the World Cup was a competition that Argentina had failed to grasp since 1986, despite 2 final appearances since then. Annulo Mufa. Cancel the curse. A phrase that's been doing the rounds for quite some time now, pertaining to the Argentina national team. Also one that reached critical retweet mass in the lead up to the 2022 edition. Argentina's World Cup qualifying campaign kicked off on the 8th of October 2020. 17 games later, 11 wins, 6 draws and 0 losses had them in blistering form in the lead up to the finals. Along with Brazil, they were the only undefeated team in the CONMEBOL qualifiers. And in the lead up to this tournament, it really did seem like something was in the air. Lionel Scaloni was still in charge. At 44 years of age, he was the youngest manager going into this tournament and already one of the most successful on the international stage. The emergence of 21-year-old Enzo Fernandez was something of beauty. After impressing at River Plate, he moved over to Benfica in June of 2022 and continued his upward trajectory. Also, he only had 3 international appearances before this World Cup. I know, right? By the way he was playing, it was kind of hard to tell. Julian Alvarez, now 22, only featured once in the 21 Copa America win, but has since earned a big move over to EPL giants Man City, and as of right now, that £15 million price tag is looking like literal robbery.
Where is Messi? Where is Messi?
That's what we were all asking ourselves for a big portion of 2021 and early 2022. An uncharacteristic start to life in France made a lot of people question if Messi still had it. But after that, our guy swiftly woke up and decided he was going to start ending careers again. 12 goals and 14 assists in 20 appearances for PSG at the season midway point, and a renewed sense of purpose meant it was about to be a very long day for all those who crossed his path in Qatar. But it wasn't all going perfectly. Sadly, soon after the Copa America win, Sergio Aguero was forced to retire from football due to a heart condition. Nevertheless, he found his true calling as a Twitch streamer. Angel Di Maria, Rodrigo de Paul and Lautaro Martinez are all classy players, but were either in patchy form or injured in the lead up to the regular season break. Argentina were expected to do well in this tournament, but they could have just as easily completely fallen apart, and few would have been surprised. We'll get into how Argentina set up in a bit, but first, I want to briefly go over their journey to the finals. Going into this tournament, Argentina were on an absolute hot streak. 36 games played, 75 goals scored, 17 goals conceded. 1-7. Up against Saudi Arabia first, I don't think anyone saw anything other than a win for Scaloni's men, especially after Messi slotted home from a penalty and Argentina proceeded to pepper the Saudi goal. Only problem was that they failed to stay onside throughout all of this. Saudi Arabia made them pay. 37 games. 1 loss. The dream was beginning to crumble almost as soon as it began, it seemed. Only once in World Cup history had a team managed to win the World Cup after going down in their first match, Spain, 2010. Argentina were now forced to emulate these lots if they wanted their dream to live on. Luckily for them, they were up for it. 2 straight wins against Mexico and Poland ensured their qualification for the knockouts. First came Australia, a routine victory. Then came the Netherlands. Anything but. They surged to a 2-0 lead by the 73rd minute, but after a few lapses in concentration, the Dutch drew level in the 101st minute and took the game to pens. Can you imagine? This was a feisty affair. Throughout the tournament, the Netherlands had come under fire due to how Van Gaal had seemingly abandoned the core pillars of total football, especially against Argentina. Long balls, hit and pray, you know the deal. All the same, it worked. They did draw level late in the game. However, the ugliness wasn't limited to the field of play. Scuffles across the pitch, words being exchanged before and after the match, and most significantly, during the penalty shootout itself. The Dutch took quite a few liberties before each Argentine player made the long walk to the spot, getting up in their faces as an intimidation tactic, as we can see here. This did not work. Argentina got to the semis and were faced up with a team that can no longer be referred to as dark horses. Croatia seemed to be most teams' kryptonite in knockout football, which is possibly hard to believe for some, especially after hearing what the score was for this match. 3-0. Argentina gave up possession for most of the match in this one, instead choosing to pick their punches with intricacy. And they did just that. The standout goal for me, and for probably everyone else, was the third, from Julian Alvarez. Messi turned back time and robbed Josko Vardiol, arguably the defender of the tournament, of his dignity and teed it up for his young compatriot, leaving no doubt that Argentina would get another shot at exercising their World Cup final demons. Okay. On to some team talk. Throughout the tournament, Lionel Scaloni's head must have been visibly steaming due to the amount of shape changes and tactical amendments that he was making. We saw 4-4-2s, 5-3-2s, 4-3-3s, and much more in-game. I guess one of the perks of having a truly gifted crop of players is that the tactical freedom and positional permutations allowed are essentially unlimited. Nonetheless, the main pillars of the team in terms of tactics and players were somewhat consistent throughout, and because of this, I'll only be going over the finals in this video. In terms of personnel, there were no real surprises here. We had all seen the 4-3-3 before, but something we hadn't seen all too much of is this: Angel Di Maria. Not the fact that he was on the pitch, he is an all-time player and one of Argentina's greatest ever. No, it's the fact that he is here on the left, something that I don't think very many people were expecting, but we'll get into the significance of that in a second. On to the actual tactics. At a very high level, Argentina were brave in this match. Well, brave is one way of putting it, but what I really mean is that they took calculated risks. As I mentioned in my previous video on Argentina's Copa America win, this team has accountability, running, and positional awareness bursting out the seams, more so than in any Argentina team that I've personally witnessed before 2021. Possession of the ball was a formality for these boys throughout this final match, particularly in the first half. And this was partially because of how high the team was playing, which in turn led to Argentina always having at least one man in free space. The fullbacks were continuously pushing up, forcing France into their own final third, pinning their wide players back. Messi was dropping deep, pulling more than one player out of position whenever he did so. Couple Messi being on the right with Mbappe's natural hesitancy to track back, what you get is a lot of build-up play happening down that side, forcing France to react, which left Angel Di Maria with a lot of room to explore. Now, I'm a huge fan of Jules Kounde, but Di Maria had him on strings in this one. The man still has scary agility at 34, so it's no surprise that he won a pen in this match and scored Argentina's second. As is usually the case when it comes to teams that this man plays for, this team was pretty much built to bring out the best of Lionel Messi. In attack, there was always movement, meaning that number one, opposing players were always occupied, and number two, Lionel Messi always had passing options, which is kind of an irrelevant phrase to use when talking about this guy. His accuracy and vision essentially makes everyone a passing option, even if they're being marked. In defense, even though he did apply some pressure, Alvarez and De Paul did most of Messi's pressing for him, freeing him up to block passing lanes and analyze the game at his own pace. It was some classy game management by Scaloni, up until the 81st minute. As I've already said, Argentina surged ahead to a 2-0 lead in the first half and were looking comfortable. France were chasing shadows, but Didier Deschamps didn't become one of French football's greatest icons for no reason. I think more needs to be said about how he managed to bring France all the way to pens in the final, despite the drama and mass hospitalization that France experienced in the lead-up to this tournament. In a truly rare turn of events, he made 2 substitutions 5 minutes before half-time, Olivier Giroud and Ousmane Dembele for Kolo Muani and Marcus Thuram. This drastically changed France's shape, and the instructions from Deschamps to have Griezmann drop back and assist the midfield that was being run over was a game changer. As a result, France were much more competitive in the second half. But perhaps the most significant of alterations was Deschamps putting the golden boy up top as a lone striker instead of out wide where he started. 97 seconds. That's all it took. 97 seconds was all he needed to rip up the script. In the 80th minute, the game was 2-0. In the 82nd minute, the game was 2-2. The world was stunned. Argentine celebrations were halted. We had a game on our hands. Argentina keep pushing, and who else but Messi puts them ahead in extra time. Surely now it's over. Kylian Mbappe scores his hat-trick. After this performance, Kylian Mbappe deserved the win. This would be his magnum opus. A win would solidify this performance as arguably the greatest ever performance in recorded football history. If we're all being honest, given the context of the goddamn World Cup final, it was already in contention. It would have made history, but the destiny of another man on the pitch was just far too strong to be denied. Argentina, no longer cursed, came away as the kings of the world. Emi Martinez once again showed that he has balls of steel and deserves yet another shithousery award. A penalty save, some killer dance moves, and maybe the greatest photo in World Cup history. This man is a legend. And then we have this man. What on earth is there to be said about this man that hasn't already been said? Lionel Messi has quite literally won everything that there is to be won by a man that kicks a ball for a living. He's mesmerized us for years and years now, and we should all be thankful that we were all alive to witness it all happen in front of our eyes. And this World Cup has only served to further prove his greatness. First player to score in every stage of a World Cup in a single tournament. First player to win 2 golden balls, most World Cup appearances in history, 26, 7 goals, 3 assists, man of the match in 5 out of the 7 games Argentina played. Most overall goal involvement of any player in World Cup history with 20. All of that on top of being a 7-time Ballon d'Or winner and already considered arguably the greatest player to ever do it. At this point, there can be no argument. Over time, the game has changed, and with each increment in time, players have become faster, stronger, and have been blessed with more options to increase their longevity. From a technological perspective, human error still exists, but from a tactical, speed, mental, and officiating perspective, it's hard to argue that football isn't currently in its most advanced form. All the same, this man's ability to keep pulling off what most people would deem to be impossible, what most people would deem to be improbable, over 2 decades, is unprecedented. There was simply no way that the universe was about to let this man walk away from the game without a World Cup trophy, without being immortalized even further beyond that which he already is. He's magic. That's all we can really say. Magic. Congrats to Argentina. Here's to the 3rd star. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys think about Argentina and Lionel Messi's historic win. Feel free to follow all the socials. That's all from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.